I had this idea around the time basically was announced, and that NFT I mentioned was kind of minted on Zora. It was like, oh, I was like, this is kind of the base token, right? There's not going to be a base token. They've been pretty clear about it. Maybe there is in a distant future, but there's not going to be one anytime soon. And I was like, this NFT is kind of the token, right? They ended up minting almost 500,000 of them, like across like almost 400,000 unique wallets, which is like crazy. Like we never have seen that kind of distribution on chain for an NFT
Yeah.
before then. Oh, that was the idea. I was like, that always simmered in my head. I was like, that's kind of an interesting idea. Like there is this on-chain connectivity with distribution that Coinbase has, but anyone can use it. It's permissionless, right? Like anyone could fork it, airdrop it, do whatever they want with that NFT. Fast forward a year later, so summer of 2024, I was like, I want to do something with this NFT.
Glad to have you on ZeroPod. I don't know how many episodes you've watched of ZeroPod, but we do try to take kind of a personal tact a little bit, maybe more so than most tech pods, and dig in a little bit to the people behind the project. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this would love to hear and learn more about who Garrett is and how you ended up here as a very on-chain person with the rest of us. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Firecaster, a lot about Base, a lot about Based, as well. But before that, can you sort of give us the background on Garrett? Like, where did you grow up? What was young Garrett like? Take us way back.
Yeah. Starting way back, I grew up in Oklahoma. So I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, actually a little bit outside of Tulsa, so like middle of nowhere, very country. Went to high school in Tulsa. Yeah.
My co-creator Jack is from Oklahoma, actually. I didn't know if you knew that.
Really? I didn't realize he was from Tulsa or from Oklahoma. Where
Yeah, he
you
grew
know
up
where?
out there. I don't know exactly, but I know he moved from there to Ohio at some point. But yeah, he grew up in
Nice.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'll
Anyway,
ping about that. Anyways, yeah, so from Oklahoma, uh, went to high school in Tulsa, played basketball all growing up. Like basketball is my first love. I still play up to this day, pick up and very consistently. So like basketball was pretty much most of my life whenever I was younger.
what's your
Um,
position?
I was a point guard.
Point guard.
So I played point guard, played AAU, traveled. Um, Ended up going to school, University of Arkansas. So I went to University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, which is about 2 hours from Tulsa, so it's pretty close. Was a big like Sooner fan and OU fan growing up, but wanted something a little bit different. Went to Arkansas, got really down deep in the music industry whenever I was at Arkansas, studied finance, international business, and then while I was doing that, started promoting music shows and booking concerts, both for the university and independently. And that kind of sent me out on a path where I worked in music,
I noticed you worked for Roc Nation at some point. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, started a music festival in college, in conjunction with the university, got to know all the like music agents and kind of booking world of live music. Ended up taking a job with a company called Paradigm, which is a major talent agency. Lived out in California for a year right after college. This was 2015.
I wanted to make some kind of joke when I saw that and be like, Garrett, formerly of Paradigm, not that Paradigm.
It's definitely come up. You're not the first one to think about it like that. So did that, lived out in California for a year, and then moved to New York, worked in music until 2019, 2020. I worked at Paradigm, excuse me, until 2020. Live music kind of shut down, obviously with COVID and the onset of that. I was also kind of looking to kind of get out of live music and knew I didn't want to do it long term. Left Paradigm, went to Roc Nation in 2020. So was at Roc Nation for a couple years there. And very first of 2022, went to CoinDesk, and that was my first full-time thing in crypto. We can loop back and pick back up there. But that's some origin.
That's a lot of origin. I appreciate the context. It's awesome. Did you ever play any sort of instruments or play music yourself, or were you mostly?
Yeah. I played piano a bunch growing up, and then throughout college, like played guitar a little bit, just kind of picking and strumming here and there. Never like spent a ton amount of time on it, but always enjoyed live music, both friends playing, kind of jamming a little bit.
You were the guy that we always appreciated at the party who had the guitar in the corner and a chill spot to hang out.
I wasn't quite there. I was more so like I would be able to pick up the guitar with the chill guy in the corner and do it. I wasn't the one necessarily hosting the jam session per se.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about COVID and how that changed things, but you worked at Roc Nation after COVID, I guess. Was that less on the live events and more so on other parts of it?
Yeah, so it was brand partnerships. So I kind of ran a bunch of brand partnerships for Roc Nation's like music management roster. So like Megan Thee Stallion, Louis Vert, Meek Mill, Fat Joe, a bunch
Nice.
of others, Tinashe, ASAP Ferg. Did a bunch of the brand deals. So like Megan Thee Stallion's Popeyes deal, or like ASAP Ferg's deal with like Monster, or like one of my favorite ones was a Fat Joe and White Castle deal,
That's
which was
amazing.
amazing.
Tinashe is finally getting some due. It's been nice to see her getting some glow lately
Yeah.
because she's been like a player for a while, but it's kind of in the background. But
Yeah, she's been hustling. She's been around, and it's funny enough, my fiance is Tinashe is actually her cousin.
no
So
way.
like, yeah, so we have
Small
a
world.
pretty, yeah, small world. And we had actually just started dating whenever I first started at Rock, and it was funny. She was like, "Oh, like Nashe," that's who she calls Tinashe. And I was like, "Yeah, like I know Tinashe, I've done some of her deals, etc." So it's funny now, anytime she comes to New York, we go to her shows and just kind of like hang out, and it's fun.
So that's your sort of music backstory, and then you.
Whoa, Toady, let me interrupt you for a moment here because I need to talk to you guys out there. Are you listening? Good. Are you into cool people, cool projects, cool art, and supporting creative people making creative shit? Good. Then you're into Yellow Collective. You just didn't know it. Yellow Collective has been sharing the alpha, the real alpha, not just on tokens, I mean, sometimes, but the alpha on the people. Community, culture, films, music, movie, art, everything that makes this world worth living in. So, if you want to learn more and you want to learn how to join this group, if you really believe that the true alpha was always the friends we made along the way, then check out yellowcollective.xyz. Join the Yellow channel on Farcaster, and hopefully I'll see you in that Yellow chat. Whatever Toady was saying, I'm sure was really important, so continue listening, and I'll see you later. Bye.
You come to work for CoinDesk, which is obviously, a major player in on-chain media, or I guess at the time it wouldn't even have been considered on-chain media; it was just crypto media.
Yeah.
What was your job there, and when was that? What was your job there, and did you have any previous exposure to crypto before that?
Yeah, so my kind of origin in crypto was really like 2018, 2019. So like
Okay.
back half of the ICO era, like, had bought more Bitcoin and Ethereum around that time. Enough, well, I like to say enough to pay attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So enough for me to care enough so that I was like paying attention to the prices and kind of what was going on. Prior to that, I had like read the Bitcoin white paper back in college. I had buddies of mine who were buying substances and illicit other things on Silk Road. So like that,
Many such
yeah.
cases. Yeah.
So that was very much like my first kind of real introduction into crypto, was just like learning about Bitcoin, reading the white paper. And then 2017, 2018, read Ethereum white paper, got more interested. 2019 rolls around, and I kind of like would consider myself like probably the class of 2019 in crypto, because like 2019 was like the beginning of DeFi summer. Uniswap was around, ENS was picking up, like tinkering around with all those things was fascinating, along with Helium. I was very interested in like Helium at the
Interesting.
time, and like the whole like bootstrapping a cellular network by hosting a bunch of nodes, or essentially Wi-Fi routers, was really
I
interesting
still
to me.
have I still have a Helium. I don't know if they're called routers or whatever they're called. I have
Miners,
one
whatever.
in my bedroom, and I don't think it's still doing anything because I kind of missed. I got lost when they did the migration to Solana, and I know a
Yeah.
lot of people that I knew that were also mining. We all kind of got lost on what the migration was supposed to be, and so I still have it. I don't know if I can still use it, but I always liked the idea. The big idea of DPIN made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, same. And like I mean, at one point I had like 15 miners around like
Nice.
my place, my some of my friends back in Oklahoma and Arkansas, etc. So that
Yeah.
was like 2019, 2020. 2020 rolls around, I was at Roc Nation. Continuing, all of my free time was in crypto. So like I was tinkering on everything in DeFi summer, everything NFTs from 2020 onward.
Yeah.
I was at Rock. There was a bunch of crypto deals coming through. So like talked to Binance, talked to FTX, did a few deals like Unstoppable Domains, NBA Top Shot. I did a few deals with, like a few things like that for some of the kind of talent we worked with. And
Top Shot, and Unstoppable were two of my first forays into crypto. Actually, I knew a little bit about it before, but to your point, I didn't own enough to pay attention prior to that. So I was kind of like that cohort that came in with Top Shot and really fell
yeah,
down the rabbit hole at that point. And I always kind of like held. I mean, if someone's watching from Unstoppable, I'm sorry to say this, but I always felt a little bit mad at them because I spent so much time buying Unstoppable domains and then never bought ENS domains, and then just got completely like effed on the ENS airdrop. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, Unstoppable, how'd you do this to me? But
I mean, quick aside, whenever Unstoppable first came out, I just had no idea how big of a business like domain names are, and like
yeah,
learned a lot about that back in that time. Um, it was fascinating.
yeah, I bet it's pretty crazy. Are they a big player in that space, even like with non-crypto DNS and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like you can, the whole like business there is you register a top level domain. So like .fun or .xyz or whatever it is, right? And if you go through all the paperwork and et cetera and register that as a top level domain, then everyone essentially everyone pays you rent basically to like register XYZ domain on .nft or .crypto or and they did that. So Unstoppable Domains did that for like .nft, for .crypto, for a lot of the
Okay,
like top level domains that with crypto words or abbreviations.
I didn't know that.
Um, so yeah, anyways, interesting. And then so finally to answer to your question, CoinDesk.
Yes,
I was at Roc Nation at the end of 2021. I was like, I spend all my free time in crypto. Like I care more about crypto and this emerging tech stuff and like all this financialized like tech more so than I do like music and culture, which up to that point was kind of my entire professional career.
yeah,
Had dabbled and traded in things on the side, but um, decided to move over to CoinDesk because I had a friend who had just joined CoinDesk from South by Southwest. And I was like, I talked to him and I was like, what are you doing at CoinDesk? Like, I know who CoinDesk is, but I didn't think he did.
right.
And he was like, he's like, I believe in crypto. I'm not super into it, but I've run big events. And he was brought on to run CoinDesk consensus event.
Okay,
So
cool.
I
Which is a
knew
big event,
him, big event, yeah, and like from like my time with music festivals, etc., and some of the other professional events I had like been around, I had seen kind of how those events are run, so there's a certain level of comfort there, and was
yeah,
less to me going to CoinDesk was less risky than going to some of the other like VC firms who wanted me to come in and be a research analyst or something like that.
right.
Um, and the biggest benefit of CoinDesk was you just have to say CoinDesk. Everyone in crypto knows CoinDesk, right? What a great
Still to this day, yeah.
yeah. So joined CoinDesk in the first of 2022, and ran strategy and partnerships there across CoinDesk Media, but most of my focus was on Consensus, the event actually. And then ended up wearing a few different hats at CoinDesk over the 2 years there. Did a lot of marketing stuff, did a lot of stuff across like some of the product management that they were kind of looking to build and stuff like that. Uh, and so that was for 2 years, left CoinDesk in the beginning of 2024 to be the head of crypto at Laser, which is a product development studio engineering shop that we basically help with engineering and product design services for a lot of startups across the space in crypto.
How did that transition come to be? How did you meet folks from Laser? Or were you looking for a transition, or it just kind of happened?
Yeah, I was looking for a transition. I wanted my like hands more in the dirt. I had talked to all these founders and investors throughout my time, at CoinDesk and even before, and I was like, I want to be helping people build stuff, and I want to be building stuff myself more.
At
And
CoinDesk, sorry to interrupt, but at CoinDesk, were you mostly like finding partners and whatnot? Is that what
mostly
your role
finding
was?
partners. Yeah, mostly finding partners, facilitating like any sort of growth initiatives to try to grow the audience of CoinDesk, both for the media and the event side. So a lot of like finding partners, partnerships, some sales or some sponsorship stuff at times.
Yeah,
And then towards the end of my time at CoinDesk, started doing some product development on a thing called CoinDesk Flash that never got to fully launch, but certainly got me excited about building something more like that. Had
can you say
known
what that was? Can you say
yeah,
what that was supposed to be?
it was basically a souped up RSS feed. So if you've
Nice.
ever seen like unusual whales and Telegram or some of those stuff like that are always kind of like breaking news and stuff through Twitter,
Yeah,
it was basically like that with all the CoinDesk reporters feeding into it because the editorial head of CoinDesk had realized that there was actually market moving news in CoinDesk, not only like the first paragraph, but the lead headlines often. And that was being beta tested with a bunch of trading desks, crypto trading desks across the industry.
sure.
And then in the midst, CoinDesk got sold in the time I was there from DCG to Bullish. And in the midst of all that transition, some of those product initiatives kind of got deprioritized and they weren't willing to like fund some of those initiatives as much.
That's a cool
So
idea, though. It almost sounds like crypto Bloomberg in a way, like terminal,
yes, that's
kind of
the
like that
idea.
vibe.
The editorial head at CoinDesk was a guy by the name of Kevin Reynolds who built Bloomberg First Word. Built
Okay.
Bloomberg First Word was the breaking news feed in the Bloomberg terminal. So
Mm.
very much modeled after that, just never got kind of all the way there. But
Even back in
anyways,
2021, I don't know if you remember, everyone was pretty much on crypto panic too, which was kind of like a decentralized version of that. I don't know how decentralized it was, but that's how it was built anyway. That it was like
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
embedded.
versions like this that were like driven by like one or two like key influencers. Like Tier 10K is a big one on Twitter that's like still does it, right? Unusual Whales is one. Like people like Joe McCann have their breaking feeds and stuff
That
like that.
Delta, what's that Delta one? The weird one, the one that has an
Delphi
I.
Digital has some stuff,
No,
or
there's like
no?
a Delta something, like something Delta. Anyway,
Oh, anyways, yeah,
yeah, there's a bunch of them for sure.
right. Um, But yeah, anyways, throughout my time at CoinDesk, had known the Laser guys, the founders, a guy named Arif and Zane. I
Yeah,
had seen some of the work they had done. They built NFL All Day, which is the NFL trading platform for cards, like similar to NBA Top Shot for Dapper
yeah.
Labs. They had done some other work as well across the space. And I was like, you guys are the best engineering like agency shop I've ever come across. And they knew crypto, but they needed somebody with like a strong network and a strong kind of product mind to come in and like really juice that team and grow it.
I was gonna
So
say that's kind of probably an interesting benefit of having done the job you did for, for that long, is that you really got to like network for a job in a way. Like that was your
yeah, I
job,
mean,
was to meet people.
yeah, I mean, I think Laser, it worked because Laser was like, oh, you have a really good network across crypto, and you're also very like knowledgeable around a ton of crypto products and chains, ecosystems, etc. So it kind of was a perfect storm. I didn't really think there was a job like Laser, to be totally honest. And I was like, oh, I can do all this, and it really fits my skill set and kind of my experience really well.
So, what is the
Um,
job for those that are not
so my
familiar?
job is the, head of crypto, general manager of Laser Crypto, which means that I'm kind of helping oversee a line of business that's really an engineering and product design consultancy. So we kind of, teams like Coinbase, teams like Polymarket, teams like Alchemy, Barachain, Privy, Dynamic, a ton of others will come to Laser whenever they have a special, either project or they need some additional engineering help
Yeah.
for like, to try to either accelerate their timelines for some kind of unique expertise, et cetera. And we work with those companies for, 1, 2, 3 months at a time, scoped out against a specific project or initiative. So I have a lot of my hands in different kind of projects, see what people are trying to do and build. And my day-to-day role is a lot of like sales, client kind of relationships across some of those projects. I like to say that I'm like key problem solver as well. So if anything is going, needs to jump in to kind of make sure a project's going smoothly, or if I can connect the dots with any other providers or people in the space that can help us, or help our clients, very much do so a lot of that across the board.
Chief firefighter too sometimes.
Yes. Chief firefighter is a good one for sure.
Well, that's a pretty good laundry list of clients that you mentioned. I'm wondering if you can talk about any interesting projects that you've helped with over the past. I'm sure there's some you're working on right now that you probably can't talk about, but maybe some of the ones that are already public.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the Laser stuff, both of the on-chain summer campaigns with Coinbase, Laser had a large part in.
Nice.
So both the original one in 2023 and the one last year in 2024, because that was kind of originally more of a side marketing project for the Coinbase team, and then it evolved into being obviously base and wallet,
Core.
and
Yeah.
now it's much more of like a core thing with them, which we
Mm.
continue to help support them on in that direction, and now the new wallet experience. So very much a lot of stuff around that. We've built the canonical bridge on Barachain on top of layer 0 contracts. So we've worked closely with Barachain on a few different things like that. Some of the wallet SDKs for folks like Privy and Dynamic in unique environments like Unity, which is like Unreal Engine, a gaming environment. We've helped
Oh,
them build some of that wallet infrastructure. Um, there's a concrete.xyz, which is like a DeFi protocol, except with Blueprint Labs is the name of that company.
okay.
Work closely with them. And I think one of the sexier ones is Polymarket's mobile app. So the mobile app last year that they were touting on the like news lists,
Yeah.
etc. We built.
Making a big
Um,
splash.
Yeah, it was a cool one. It was a read only, so you couldn't like, trade polymarket or things like that, but it was a pretty useful app to track what sentiment was around the US election. So we've kind of touched a lot of things. I would say another cool project was with Uniswap last summer. So Uniswap did a collaboration with Kid Super, where they were kind of like being able to pay with the Uniswap wallet, both in person at the Kid Super store and online at the Uniswap store, which was
Oh,
pretty
cool.
unique. Pretty unique integration with Shopify to enable like crypto payments with Uniswap Wallet. So we built a ton of different things. We can build about anything across crypto. It's just a matter of like what's needed and where we can help.
I can see what you meant earlier when you said this sounded like a dream job in some ways, because you get to work on all these different projects. You can't really get bored, right? Like maybe if you're building the same thing for too long, it can start to get a bit long in the tooth. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it can. I mean, I think that's the benefit of like why, I like to say that we're kind of like a SWAT team, right? You shouldn't be hiring the SWAT team if you don't know like exactly what you want to get built and get done.
yeah,
Right? So usually whenever we're working on projects, it's a pretty clear, plan or goal of what we're jumping in to build, for clients and things like that. So yeah, we get to see a lot of cool stuff, get to help think through a lot of interesting ideas or concepts with some of the clients, and definitely keeps my hand on the pulse. In addition to all my, tinkering on chain that we all do day to day too.
I feel like it's more common in this space than people realize too. Is like for people to need teams like yours to come in and just help get things done, because a lot of these startups are so bootstrapped. They're like maybe one or two guys. Like even if you're like Merkle or some of these bigger funded teams, they just need people to step in and get a job done sometimes.
100%. I think it's as long as you know what you're doing, right? Or you have a clear goal of what you're doing. If you're just kind of like R&Ding stuff and kind of throwing shit at the wall, which everything is kind of that, but like how seriously are you taking a swing at something is kind of the way
Yeah,
to think
yeah,
about it.
true.
Um and then the other thing that, I think the thing that I think about our engineers and people at Laser is just like, are you active on chain? Do you use crypto products? Do you know what it is? It's not like you have to know a ton of Solidity or Rust to be a crypto engineer. You're a strong
Yeah.
full stack engineer. And you're a user. You're probably pretty good.
Yeah, I think there was some discussion on Farcaster at some point where Jesse talked about asking, everyone they're hiring that, like, what's the last 10 things you did on chain? Whether it's like for a customer service rep right up to a full stack engineer, just like trying to find people who really know what they're supposed to be building.
Yeah, there exactly. One of the most illuminating interview questions that I ever received was this was back in 2021. Bill McCormick or Will, I'm blanking on his last name. Will at Alliance DAO, or now it's just called Alliance.
Yeah.
I was interviewing there before I joined CoinDesk, and one of the most interesting and pretty like I don't think a lot of people would have done this, but it was back in 2021 whenever like NFTs were crazy, et cetera. And he's like, will you open up your Discord and walk me through all your Discords and like why you're in them and things like that? Which is
Oh
like a
God.
pretty like what's the word, prying question, or some people might not want to do that because it is kind of like privacy
Yeah.
concerns. Like it's reasonable to think that some people wouldn't do that. I was like, sure, why not? And I just walked him through like literally like 10 or 15 Discords of like, this is what this one is, this is the project, this is why I was interested in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and did that. And like, it really spoke to me because I was like,
Mm.
man, that's a really good question to ask because I'm going to know how deep that person is
Yeah.
in this stuff by that question.
You can't fake that. Yeah. You'd
No.
be like going through the first 10, you'd be like, these are all my favorite Discords. And then the next 100, I have no fucking idea why I'm in these Discords. That was 2021.
Yeah.
Oh
I
man.
mean, it's still like, I haven't spent the time to like truly clean up my Discord,
Same.
but I rarely go in there. So yeah.
It's like a graveyard, I still use it for some things for sure, but there's like definitely over 50 that I just have sitting there and haven't opened in 4
Yeah.
years. Talk to us a little bit about, first of all, I appreciate you telling us a little bit about your professional background and how you got to where you are and your crypto background. It's really interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit about your Farcaster journey, as it were, because most people who are watching this, if they're on Farcaster in any capacity, they'll recognize you. You're definitely a main character, I think, in the Purple app. And I'd love to hear how you got, onto Farcaster, because you've been there since early days, and sort of what your experience has been like.
Yeah. So I joined Farcaster back in like fall of 2022. I had seen Dan posting about it on Twitter. and DM'd him and asked him if I could, get an invite or things like that, which is something I was doing a lot back then, still to this day. If I see an interesting project or something on crypto that I like, I just try to find the founder and DM them and ask if I can have beta access or whatever
Just
it
keep
is.
clicking. Just keep clicking.
Yeah. But not only be clicking, but be inquisitive and curious enough to like ask and reach out and offer product feedback, right? I think a lot of my relationships in the space were built because I tried to give really good feedback to founders or people who are trying to build something.
That's so rare too. Like I'm finding valuing that a lot now too, that I've got a mini app that I'm building, and most people won't take the time to give you like real feedback or especially honest feedback. But when you find the gems who will be like, this doesn't make sense. What the fuck am I supposed to do here? Like those are the people you're like, thank you so much. Like I need that.
I mean, I literally credit that with most of my stronger relationships in the space. Like before I even knew somebody, was just trying to give like feedback, and I was like, I don't care if it's not something you want to hear. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to say what I think is good or bad or not good about this thing. And I think that endeared me to a lot of people in some ways and has built a good relationship base for me. But yeah, so back in 2022, wasn't very active on Farcaster for the first, I would say, few months, casted once or twice. Fast forward to like summer of 2023. I had gotten just pretty fed up with Twitter. I think for many of those people in crypto from 2020 to 2022, you kind of lived on Twitter. That's where you kind of got most of your information and kind of kept up. And I still did, but I was just like, had never put a ton of effort into like building a huge following, trying to put out content and and put my take on things as much. Farcaster, it felt like a Discord in some ways, like back then, and it's in some ways still to this day, where it was just like there was more conversation. It was more of a back and forth, like sharing thoughts and opinions on something and things like that. And I saw that in 2023, summer 2023, and was very active pretty much that point forward. I would say August or September of 23, and became more or less a daily active user from that point forward.
QDAO?
QDAO,
so.
yeah, back in those days for sure. And it's funny, right around the time I got more interested in Farcaster, I had actually talked to Yasik about Degen's Yasik about a totally different idea around like using the music APIs for Spotify to see if there's a cool music app you could build.
Because he was
pre-Degen. Wow. This was pre-Degen. He had he was working at a company called Hedgehog, which is like a DEX DeFi company.
Yasik's been on the pod, actually. He was our guest two episodes ago. But yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's great. So we were talking about that. I knew he was kind of tinkering. And then the fun part of Farcaster lore that I think was like a huge thing was Matthias at I am Matthias on Farcaster tweeted out, like, this was around the time, Kyle McCollum.
From
Daylight. Tweeted like, oh, this is around the time in 2023 whenever like points was such a meta in crypto. Everyone was doing a points leaderboard.
Rainbow introduced their points, and
yeah, everyone knew points like correlated to a token, or they would, or potentially it was kind of a soft airdrop or a soft, TGE type thing. And Kyle tweeted, it was like, oh, someone should launch a points token. It'd be funny.
I remember.
I am Matthias commented and said, I just launched it. Here's the contract, and launched the token, and then said, the first 5 people who comment, I will airdrop you 1 million points. And it was like me, Kyle, Cooper, and like, I forget, maybe Daryl, Yao, and maybe one other person. The next day we woke up and like that token was like a $10 million token, and all of us had like 5 figures worth of on-chain money, basically.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that was on mainnet. That was pre any of the L2 stuff.
I like to think that points would have been Degen had it been on base in some ways. And Matthias also didn't know what to do that weekend and kind of went offline for the full weekend, and it kind of died then. But
he kind of had a mental health breakdown in a way, if I remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot to deal with. As anyone
not for the faint of heart.
No, and as anyone who's launched a token or an NFT, you've seen all the bad shit that comes with kind of people coming out of the woodwork to clamor at you whenever you launch something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I know that directly influenced Yasik in addition to Friendtech. We had conversations around some of this stuff. And then he launched Degen, around the channels, and that was in January 2024, and it's been a roller coaster ride ever since.
It's so crazy. When Jacek was on the pod, we talked a little bit about that Valentine's Day, which was kind of crazy. And for those who weren't on Farcaster at the time, Jacek just made sort of the executive decision to give everyone who had the top hat emoji, which was like the degen emoji, in their name, got a million degen tokens to tip out on that Valentine's Day. And at the height of degen, a couple months later, that ended up being a ridiculous amount of money that we had just tipped out to people. And it's just kind of crazy to look back. And Jacek said that like some of his investors at that time, like I think one confirmation was already involved at that point, and they were kind of like, maybe run that by us next time before you give away 1% of the supply or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a wild time. Truly. I mean, it's whenever you have a highly concentrated group of users on chain, a lot of crazy wild things can happen. And once it gets too big, that magic is harder to replicate or harder to create.
I think that's true, but I think that's also like one of the most promising things about Farcaster is that it allows you to incubate and like grow something really special within that sort of bubble, as it were. And that if you can find escape velocity like Degen has and like a few others have, I mean, then you're out on your own, and it's up to you to survive or not. But
Yeah.
it gives you a fighting chance. Yeah.
Totally. I think people are more willing to engage in a more thoughtful, like genuine way on Farcaster. I think that's, maybe slightly less true as it's grown and there's more like farming activity, et cetera, which is a natural thing, I think, in crypto that always is there. But I agree. It's a really great place for that. And I've always said like the best beta testers, users in crypto are on Farcaster.
I think that sentiment still exists. Like we're seeing the success of Noise now, which is a cool app, and some of the others like Amps and Tippin too, and just those wouldn't really work as easily anyway in their nascence on X, because there just isn't that attitude of like positive sum experimentation that you get on Farcaster.
Totally agree. Yeah, and you have a lot more of like the people clamoring at your walls because they put in $5 into a protocol and they think it should be worth 500, immediately or something.
Wait, is
like
that not the case?
Yeah, exactly.
I saw people complaining about the Laudio TG. I wasn't involved in that, but I saw some people like complaining, oh, my $30 only became 3,000 or whatever it was. It's like, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, the Laudio thing was another thing from like Cato, which was like a really cool. A huge fan of the Cato like product and team. But yeah, I saw definitely some sentiment where it's like I put in all this time on Laudio and didn't get the airdrop I thought I'd get.
Let's do something. Maybe related to Farcaster in many ways, but I know you've also been pretty involved in the base ecosystem since launch, essentially. Can you talk a little bit about early base days, and maybe that can be a lead in to talk a little bit about your project that you launched, which is called Based, BASED, $sign Based. And yeah, I'd love for you to tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the very origins of Base to me was around ETH Denver of 2023. So I was at ETH Denver 2023 with some friends. We ended up going to like Breckenridge to ski for a few days after ETH Denver. And that was the time that Coinbase announced Base, that they're going to do a L2, they're going to launch it. It was just an announcement that they're going to do this. There was like a press release or whatever. And at
an announcement of an announcement?
Well, it was an announcement of an yes, but announcement of an announcement. They also did an open mint on Zora. So they did a 721, which was unique. Usually most of those were open mint 1155s, but this was a 721 on Zora, and they left it open for 10 days and just minted the main Base logo. And it was on mainnet, so it cost people like $7 or $8 in gas at the time to mint it. It was a free mint, but it did cost people like $7 or $8 to mint.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. They did that. I was like, whoa, there's a Coinbase on-chain artifact or an on-chain asset that Coinbase is doing here. That's interesting. And I'll come back to that. But that happened, and then fast forward to August of that year, and I remember like Bald being the first meme coin on Base before Base was officially launched. Whenever
the RPCs weren't even public or anything yet.
RPCs weren't public, but you could try to hit the RPCs and try to get in, and someone had launched a Bald token, which was kind of going crazy if you could figure out how to bridge into Base at the time, or Base. But yeah, that was like the origin. And ever since then, like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Coinbase team. I think they're like the horse you have to bet on if you want crypto to succeed in America, for better or worse. So always been a huge supporter in that regard. I've loved like what Brian has always been representative of and how he's led the company.
He didn't
And then
take the
on
easy road, that's for sure.
For sure. I mean, even some of his decisions around like being like not super political back in 2020, 2021, just the way he's like, and then the way he's been steadfast in trying to be like, no, we're an American company. We want crypto to succeed here. It's not worth it to go outside and focus there. Like we have to win here. Huge respect to that. And you know, it's not perfect. No one's perfect. There's a lot of tricky situations building something that's that novel as an L2 and bring people on chain, but I've been a huge fan ever since. By no means am I like an ETH maxi or anything like that. I am very active in Solana and other things as well, but I do love like the base ecosystem, and I've always been excited about trying different things on chain within base.
Well, speaking of that, can you sort of give us a description of how sort of the based evolution happened and how you sort of turned this NFT into a meme coin, as it were?
Yeah. So I had this idea around the time Base was announced, and that NFT I mentioned was kind of minted on Zora. Was like, oh, I was like, this is kind of the Base token, right? There's not going to be a Base token. They've been pretty clear about it. Maybe there is in a distant future, but there's not going to be one anytime soon. And I was like, this NFT is kind of the token, right? They ended up minting almost 500,000 of them, like across like almost 400,000 unique wallets, which is like crazy. Like we never have seen that kind of distribution on chain for an NFT before then. Oh, that was the idea. I was like, that always simmered in my head. I was like, that's kind of an interesting idea. Like there is this on-chain connectivity with distribution that Coinbase has, but anyone can use it. It's permissionless, right? Like anyone could fork it, airdrop it, do whatever they want with that NFT. Fast forward a year later, so summer of 2024, I was like, I want to do something with this NFT. It's something interesting, like what to do. My idea was, okay, what if I launched Based, which as like a meme coin or like a token that has no purpose other than just like an experiment.
Great ticker too.
Yeah, great ticker. So Based wasn't as a term, as a meme, wasn't really enshrined well on chain. I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, okay, how do I do this fairly, transparently? How do I really make this like something I'm going to be doxxed behind it? People are going to know it's me. I don't want to do this anonymously. I want to do it try as fair as possible. I had seen a lot of token launches. I knew kind of what the good and bad came with them. I thought a lot about the tokenomics of it. And my idea was, okay, what if I give 50% of the supply to anyone who holds this NFT, comes to the site and redeems it and just says like, hey, I connected, I signed a signature, this token, this NFT, will have an allocation of Based.
Proof of Based in a way.
Proof of Based, essentially, yeah. And I announced it in late June of 2024. I opened the website on July 12th. So if you came in the first 2 weeks and redeemed an NFT, it didn't burn the NFT, which is an important thing. It just like check marked it off versus the token IDs. And if you did it in the first 2 weeks, you got 500,000 Based. If you did it in the next 2 weeks, it was 250,000 Based, so about half the amount. And then if you did it after that point, it was 25,000 Based. So way significantly less. It was very much incentivized to do it in those first 2 weeks or first month, really. And whenever I announced it, I said, this token is launching August 11th. It is launching that day. You can redeem and you come back on this day. That's all you need to worry about. So that was the idea, right? And why was that interesting? It was, well, because there was 380,000 unique wallets who held this NFT. So my idea was if I could get enough of these people to redeem it, I could launch the token with distribution because I used this NFT that was distributed by Coinbase and had existing distribution. So like that was the idea. And it launched on August 11th and ended up trading up to like 12 or 13 million market cap. And it got almost, there was 50,000 unique holders, 52,000 unique holders that redeemed an NFT, and over 100,000 of the nearly 500,000 NFTs were redeemed. So like pretty crazy numbers for something that I really just did on a Twitter account and a Farcaster account and started pushing it out, both through my own kind of handles and the brand handles, if you will.
You also kind of made something cross-chain without having to do any kind of bridging as well. It's like a cultural bridge in a way.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the idea, right? I was like, this is the Base token, but it's not on Base, right? Like this thing that announcing Base should have some sort of connection on chain to Base, and I thought the Base token was a good way to do that. So yeah, that's like that. And we talked a lot about potentially burning the NFT rather than just redeeming it. But one, I didn't want to like, you know, peeve anyone off at Coinbase and like burn some of those assets. And that was tricky. And more importantly, users aren't going to pay $5 or $10 to burn an NFT.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. And my whole goal of this was to experiment with distribution, right? Try to leverage the distribution. And if I put a big blocker in like that by forcing people to burn, it wasn't going to let that experiment kind of play out the way I wanted it to.
Well, now they're sort of making a bet. Like the reason I bought this is because I think there's maybe some speculative upside in the future to owning this thing. And now I got to bet that Garrett's a better bet than that.
Well,
if they're burning
well, you still have both.
If they're burning it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're burning it. Right. So like I kind of mitigated that early on in my kind of thinking and didn't want it to do that. And it went really well and the distribution was very, widespread. And I think the other thing that I did with it was, okay, well, you ask like that 50% of supply went there. What happened to the rest? It's probably a good question.
Yeah.
Well, so 35% of the other side was just for LP like fees, etc., LP pool, etc. How that actually worked was I put 17.5% of it in a party DAO and said, I'm open to party DAO for 3 days. I'm not saying what I think this price should be. It's an experiment. This is a thing. Anyone can contribute. Like, if you want to contribute to it, do it. But what I said to people is like, you shouldn't contribute to this until the last couple hours of the thing, because that way, you have a pretty good idea of how much funding this has got, and you'll have a good idea of like what the potential market cap of Based could be. I took everything from that party DAO raise, which ended up being 50 ETH, and locking it into the LP forever with the other 17.5% of the supply. So that's why it has, like, if you look at Base today, there's still a lot of liquidity on the token because that initial LP was pretty sizable and solid. That's 85%. I kept 5% for what I called based experiments, giving tokens to apps like Bolide or Rally or some of these other things to do different like cool distribution mechanics or airdrops with Based and some like incentives.
Hopefully this is going to be meta, because maybe some people are watching this after having minted it on Betterment, which is another thing we're going to be doing. So yeah, that's
exactly stuff like Betterment. There's a lot of other like little mini apps and things I've given Based for, so to use as an incentive for them to try to get users or whatever else. And then I've kept the last 10% for a future airdrop because I want to do something again as an experiment with Based. And that'll be coming pretty soon on some of those things.
Alpha.
Yeah.
All right. In addition to a potential future airdrop, I know you've been cooking a few other things. Can you tell us what else is coming down the Based pipeline?
Yeah. So some more experiments. One you just mentioned. So there's some stuff with Betterment that I'm excited about. We'll tinker with on that front. We did some things with Base Drop. We did some things with Warps and Arrows, which are two other kind of mini game side projects of mine that kind of as a reward. And then the thing I'm most excited about is Based merch. So I've been working with 90cc to make some Based merch for basically 6 months now. It's taken longer than I had originally anticipated, but I'm going to launch that.
It looks good though, man. I saw you post it recently. I need that t-shirt. It's so Based.
Thanks, man. No, I'm excited for it. So June 9th, that'll officially be live with a new relaunched Based.works website, which some more info around Based. And they're chipped in 90cc. So every item, 100 shirts, 100 hats, 200 like card and sticker packs. They're all have a connected NFT. So there's a collection of 400 NFTs across like the first collection of Based merch. So there's some interesting like on-chain connectivity pieces with that I'm going to experiment further for the people with that decide to buy a hat, a shirt, or a card.
That when we had our chat sort of offline last week, that's one of the things I said to you is like I really consider myself an on-chain experiment maxi. Like I think that's what we're here for. We're trying to figure out better ways of doing a lot of this stuff that's enabled, like uniquely enabled by this tech. And I love that you're doing the same thing. You're just trying experiments and being transparent about it. But most people are happy when you do that. They're happy to just try it with you, see what happens.
Yeah. And there's always going to be people that have like their own opinions or thoughts or things like that. But like I can sleep easy knowing that I've tried to be as transparent and fair and clear as possible throughout my time doing like this base project and anything I do on chain. My reputation and like who I am is priceless compared to anything like that, and that'll
For
always be
sure.
true. So always keep that in mind, and I know a lot of other people on Farcaster like yourself and others feel the same way. So it's not easy, right? A lot of this stuff is confusing. You don't really know. Everyone's kind of experimenting. No one really knows like how things should work or things like that. There's a lot of gray area, and I just try to be as clear and transparent as I can be, and like what my thoughts are and what I think is the best way to handle some of the gray areas.
That's based. I love it.
That's based.
But I usually end with like a lightning round of questions, and typically I don't push it too much as like an actual lightning round. But let's actually do like a lightning round. Like we got like 2 minutes. We got to keep it quick. All right. Favorite cuisine? Let's go.
Favorite cuisine is Chinese.
Chinese. Good one. Musical preferences. This might be difficult because your background.
Ooh, R&B, like soul R&B music. That's my bread and butter. That's my favorite.
Love it. Leisure activities.
Leisure activities, hiking out in nature, getting outside in the mountains or by the sea is really exciting. And then basketball. Basketball is always one.
You got to come visit up here in Ottawa. We've got a lot of amazing hiking, and that's one of my favorite pastimes too. So
Yeah,
I'd love to do a based hike with you sometime.
Yeah.
Recent reads? Any recent
reads? I have been bad about reading books lately, so I've been reading a lot of like shorter articles and things like that. But one read that I really do recommend, I guess, is the Bill Graham autobiography. Bill Graham was like a famous promoter in San Francisco, did a bunch of the Grateful Dead promotions. So his biography is a great read that I read not too long ago.
I'll check that out. Tech gadgets, what's your favorite one? You can't say your phone or your computer.
AirPods. I think AirPods are one of the best products, period. Ever since there was a movie called Definitely Maybe with Ryan Reynolds like 15 years ago, and here's an image of him walking across the street with like earbuds in like 2005. Always was like, I want those so bad. AirPods came out, and I'm like, they're so good. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But besides that, the Meta Ray-Bans. I bought those a few weeks ago, and I've really enjoyed using them.
I want to try those actually. We think it'd be kind of interesting to shoot content with them and stuff too, because it's kind of a different vibe than what you usually. Yeah,
it is. The person who like really gave me a strong endorsement on those was Jake on Farcaster. His podcast series, every single one of his podcasts he does with the glasses.
I didn't know that. Like he records it because I know he walks. I was just on his pod actually. I was on his pod last week. It hasn't come out yet. I didn't know he used those to record.
Yeah, because it's not video, right? But all those conversations, he's just walking with his sunglasses on somewhere.
That's dope.
Yeah,
very cool. Favorite travel destinations?
Ooh, favorite travel destinations. Good question. I think Amsterdam is one of my favorites, and Buenos Aires are like two of my favorite places I've been. I went to Brazil last month or 2 months ago, in Sao Paulo, which was amazing. But I think two of my favorite cities I've been to in the last few years have been Amsterdam and Buenos Aires.
I haven't been to either of those, so I've got to put them on the list.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Inspirational figures. Who do you look up to?
Ooh, inspirational figures. I mean, cliche, but like Steve Jobs, I think was like such a very interesting person.
Overall, very common answer to this one for sure.
Very common answer. I think Rick Rubin is a huge one as well. I think a lot of like creative inspiration I take a lot of from him. And then yeah, I think those two.
All right, final question. Alternate career path. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing?
I always wanted to be an architect. I think that's like what I would really like. Alternate life of Garrett would be an architect for sure.
I mean, that's always the one they romanticize, right? In all like the rom-com movies, it's always like he's always an architect. Ooh.
Well, yeah. Well, the funny thing, the reason I actually entered college as an architect, but I didn't want to like lock myself in a studio for 2 years whenever I was 19 and 20 years old, which is like a huge trade-off I felt like at the time. And I was like, I don't know if architecture is worth it that much to me at the time in my life.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
Well, I'm glad the world of architecture didn't steal you away from us. It's been great learning about you, a little bit of your background and your professional background as well, and about Based. If people are watching this and they want to learn more about you and about the Based project, where's the best places for them to check that out?
Base.works is the best place to go online. Based Evo on Farcaster and Twitter. You can follow me, Garrett, on Farcaster, or G Skrovina on Twitter. Those are the best places. There'll be some more info on that soon. But Toady, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. I know we could talk for hours, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
We'll have a part 2 at some point for sure. It was great chatting, and we'll talk to you soon. See you on chain.
Cheers. See you on chain.